Hi, welcome to the Spiritual Connection Show. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm a transformation coach, I'm an energy healer, I'm a shamanic practitioner, and I'm also the spiritual head of the Transformation Center CT, which is located in Westport, Connecticut. So at the center, we do a variety of workshops, trainings, we have retreats. We also have monthly satsang, which is Sanskrit for in the company of the truth. And everyone is welcome to come to that. We usually do it the last Wednesday of the month in the evening. And it's really just about an hour. We do meditation, chanting. You know, it's a great opportunity just to spend time with yourself. So please join us whenever you can. So the Spiritual Connection Show is all about connecting with each other, as well as connecting more fully with our own spiritual selves. You can learn a lot from the guests that I have each week. You know, they'll talk about their spiritual journey, what's important to them, what they've learned along their path, and also share the services that they offer that you can participate in. So thanks for joining us tonight. And my guest I'd like to welcome is Matthew Broad. Hi, Matthew.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome
really
to the
excited
show.
to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy that you're here too, that the schedule finally worked out.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read a little bit about you so our audience can get to know you before we get started just a little bit. You know, so when I first met Matthew, I think it was almost a year ago, maybe not quite, but it was at
end of last summer.
End of last summer, so it was. Okay,
yeah.
At a drum circle that you were doing at Sticks and Stones Farm in Newtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I brought my husband and he really enjoyed it too.
Yeah, that's right, I remember.
Yeah, so I've been to quite a few since then, but that was the first time. And you know, Matthew created Matthew's Community Drumming with the goal to foster love, listening, and community through drumming, and to create a sense of cooperation with all who participate in the drum circle. Yeah, I mean, what a great goal. You know, so Matthew has been teaching hand drumming for over 23 years. He does drum circles all over the place. He does it in schools, churches, malls.
Yeah, right, who would have thought?
Wherever they're going to be available. I mean, wherever people will have you. Retreat centers, you know, and regardless of age or prior experience, Matthew has a unique ability to teach a group of people how to create this ensemble-style drumming in a very short period of time. And I can attest to that because I was totally a newbie, never done it before. So I think it's really cool that you're doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
So before we talk more about the specifics and everything else that's going on with you, can you share a little bit about like your spiritual journey thus far?
Sure. My spiritual journey, I think where I am today came from a lifelong questioning. So all of my life, I have found myself questioning. You know, when I was really little, I would question because my parents were atheists, and so there was no, I didn't have any foundation for any kind of religion at all. And so at an early age, I would always question why we used the term God in like the national anthem or in, you know, in God we trust on money, you know, and I would question what is this God from an early age. And I think as I grew, and I didn't have any answers, so it was always a questioning. And
Who were you questioning? Whoever would listen?
Whoever would listen, but I would question in my own mind.
Okay,
in my own mind. And so when bad things would happen, I would question why are these bad things happening and why would God allow these bad things to happen? And so that sort of questioning just continued on into my teenage years of, you know, questioning natural developmental questions like why am I here on this earth and is there a purpose in life? So I just think that my spirituality has always just stemmed from ultimately questioning why I'm here, questioning is there a purpose, questioning things like coincidences. Are there such things as coincidences? And when I would question, whether or not something was happening coincidentally, I would always answer my own question with, well, there are no coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. And so what that reason is, I don't really know, besides that I feel deep down inside that there is an energy coming from the universe that is guiding me in my path. And ultimately that path is one of being kind to everybody I come in contact with, and sharing myself in a loving way in my communications with people.
Well, I was going to mention that to me, you just represent pure love. I mean, from the minute I met you, that was just exuding. It was like, it was more than acceptance.
Yeah,
like you want people to accept you for who you are, but it was more than that. You were meeting more than halfway, with that. It's like a proactive love, as opposed to just sitting back and, yeah, everything's cool. It was, I mean, that's you too, but it was, I don't know, I just felt that it was a little bit more.
So I think ultimately, one of the reasons why I'm here, is for me to interact with people. And if I can, so like you said, sitting back and loving, yes, you can do that, and that's great. But for me, it's the interaction with people, the positive, loving interaction with people on a moment-to-moment basis, which is what my spirituality is all about.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it feels right.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, really, it just feels right to be that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's interesting because I do believe that my whole life experience has led to this moment, always to this moment, right? And so everything that's happened in my life previously, some bad stuff, some great stuff, questionable stuff, has all led me to this moment here and now. And when people ask me, what do you regret in life? I can't really say I regret anything, because everything has brought me to this moment of love and kindness and compassion, and to be able to interact with people in this way is, I feel so blessed to be able to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's a gift.
It's really an incredible. I feel so blessed and lucky.
It's a two-way gift. It's a gift to you because you love doing it.
Yeah.
And it's a gift to others because you are doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of healing in what you do. You didn't mention that word.
Yes. So I guess I didn't really look at it from a healing perspective until just recently, even though I've always known that there is a healing aspect to the drumming. But there's, it's more of a, I think somebody might have said something recently that I was a healer, and I started thinking, well, if people can perceive what I'm doing or how I communicate with people as healing or healing for them, then that's wonderful. But to think of it as the way I interact with people as being healing, I hadn't really thought about it until I started thinking more in depth about the effects of what the drumming is doing for people. Because there's so many healing and medical benefits to the drumming that is now being documented in so many ways.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about that?
So on my Facebook page and on my website, I posted links of various different studies that people have done, and like reports and stuff like that. Neuroscientists that are now, you know, realizing the positive effects of drumming and rhythm making, and particularly in a community setting, the positive effects it's having on the cells of your body and on your brain. Like for instance, I just posted one today about how drumming in a drum circle community like we do can help with chronic pain. And the interviews that this study did with hundreds of people who had chronic pain, and how by doing a drum circle once a week over a 6-month period reduced their chronic pain to the point where they weren't taking ibuprofen as much. And these were really pretty incredible studies. So, I mean, we kind of jumped into the whole drumming thing really quickly, but
that's interesting.
Yeah, and so back to the healing question. Yes, it's being proven that the drumming piece of the puzzle is a healing experience for people.
So part of the experience, does it have to be that they are drumming themselves?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So they are drumming themselves, and I think that's a helpful component, but it's the fact that people are getting together with a group of people. So we're calling that group of people a small community. And that they're communicating and making music together, which feels good. And then a lot of these studies focus on the vibration of the bass sound in particular that's on the drums that we're playing. And that vibration that you're feeling in the cells in the community setting is what's the big healing factor.
So it's the combination.
Yeah, it's a combination. So when I teach the drumming, I try to tell people to line up with the basses. So even if they can't figure out the rhythm that we're playing, or they're feeling like they can't actually do the different parts that I'm teaching, I always say, if you get confused, try to line up your bass on your drum with the bass of the group, because it's that creates that healing feeling. And it's incredible because whenever anybody leaves, they always feel better than when they came in. It's really, it's a funny phenomenon.
No, absolutely. Because I think that drumming benefits have been around for a while, but I guess more like the shamanic, healings that I do. It's like we do medicine drumming. Yeah. But that's doing it, like I'm doing it for someone else. They're not participating.
Yes,
it's a different situation.
Right.
But it's still a healing experience.
So, the events or the drum circles that I do, I really try to make it so that people are not feeling like they have to do it. I would like them to participate. I think it would be helpful for them if they participated. But ultimately, I say, if you want, just close your eyes, just listen, just feel.
Right. That
just feel it.
Would be
so if you come to a
beneficial.
drum circle and you're not, say your hands hurt, right? And you don't want to actually put your hands on the drum, you can just sit there and feel the rhythm and the drumming around you, and that has all of these healing aspects to it.
That's great that you offer that for an option for people. I hadn't even thought of that because there's lots of reasons why people maybe that particular time wouldn't want to do it themselves.
Oh yeah, and
it's like they feel funny, they can't quite get it,
or their wrists are hurting. A lot of people have carpal tunnel syndrome, or things going on with their arms, and maybe that's why they're not coming to a drum circle. Well, they don't have to drum to get the benefits of the drum circle. Yeah.
So what, the one that we went to last week, you did in a teepee.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? That was really interesting.
Sure. So I'm doing the drum circles. I'm trying to bring the drum circle into different environments.
Okay.
So the church in Katona, and the Katona United Methodist Church, and I was looking for other places to drum a couple of years ago, and I met Michael Finkelstein, who owns Sun Raven Slow Medicine in Bedford.
Bedford, New York.
In Bedford, New York. And he said that because I connected with him and I did a couple of things at his studio space in Katona, and then he said, "Well, I'm going to be buying a teepee and putting it up on the land, and
Oh, wow, perfect.
and would you be interested in doing some drum circles in there?" And it started out where I would do spring equinox, summer solstice, fall equinox, winter solstice. I did those 4 for 2 years. And people were just so incredibly enthusiastic about it because I turned it into more than just a drum circle. I turned it into an event where I would tell stories and I would do ceremony about the 4 directions, and it really felt like a sacred space.
Nice.
You know, this traditional Native American teepee with paintings on the side is quite beautiful. And so that's just turned into a monthly event now. So once a month I do that in the teepee.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
that was the first time I was able to go.
Yeah.
But I'm glad my husband was able to.
Yeah,
go
and
too.
it's quite an event. And you know, you came and we had the center of the teepee set up with candles because
Right.
it's so hot.
Yes.
But as the weather gets cold, we actually have a big fire right in the middle of the teepee.
There's a big fire pit there.
Yeah, big fire pit, and it's quite a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to come in the winter.
Yeah, should come in the wintertime. Sign up for the winter solstice one because that's going to be really nice. Really
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
And some other interesting places you've done. One of which I went to, which was the Salt Cave of Darien.
Oh yes, the salt cave. Yeah. So salt caves and the healing properties of salt caves are springing up all over the place. And we're lucky enough to have one relatively close by in Darien, Connecticut. And yes, that was incredible. We had a dozen people that we fit in there, did some drumming, and I worked with Donna Vella, who you've had on the show before.
Yeah.
And it was a really wonderful evening.
Yeah, it's just great that you can find these places that,
Yeah.
I mean, could you literally like almost do it anywhere?
Yeah, yeah. Right. So yes, you can. You can do it anywhere if you have the chairs. So for
Okay,
so
what do you
for
need?
so for the type of drumming I do with the West African style drumming, we need to have chairs like this to sit in, so you can either hold the drum between your legs or have it sitting
Okay.
flat.
I should have asked you to bring one of your drums.
Yeah, I've got a bunch in the
Okay.
car.
You could go on your website and see.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So
you need the
theoretically, yes,
chair.
you can do. You need the chairs. So theoretically, you could do it anywhere. You know, if you don't have chairs, then you can lay the drum down on the ground and you can sit on the side of the drum and play it, and still get those sounds. It's just not as comfortable. So you
Yeah.
can do it. I mean, in Africa, they're West African drum
They don't have
styles.
chairs.
Anyways, they don't have chairs in some of these villages, and they figure out ways to attach them to their body or to sit on them. Right.
And you have so many drums that you can bring these
Yes.
anywhere, right?
Yes. So right now I have 30 djembes.
Wow.
Yep, and yeah,
Do you need like
I
a
do
big
have,
trailer to carry them all around?
actually I have a little Subaru Crosstrek that I fit them in, and,
Oh, really?
and I videotaped a couple of times where it looks like, you know, one of those clown cars where the clowns just keep coming out. It's quite funny.
It must be like a puzzle to fit them all
It
together.
is, yeah. When people help me load up, I just say, just put them by the car so I can the jigsaw puzzle, put it together.
You have your own little technique there.
Yeah,
That's cool. Yeah. So your have drum will travel.
that's right. That's right.
So I know we talked a while ago about maybe you're coming to the Transformation Center in
Yeah.
Westport and doing
Yeah.
a circle.
Yeah, I would love that.
But I don't know how you're going to fit it in. It's like every week you have something going on.
Yeah,
We'll figure it out.
I do, but I managed to figure out times and schedules to make it work.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be fun.
Maybe during the winter.
Yeah, it would be very fun. I would
Okay.
love to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
So you didn't ever, I don't think, can we back up a little bit?
Sure.
Because how did you transition into the drum? Like what were you doing before? How did that work?
Okay, so try to do a little Matthew history here.
Yeah.
So I was living in Vermont, and I was a carpenter building houses. In the early 90s, there was a bit of a recession going on, and there were too many carpenters for the amount of projects that were happening in southern Vermont at the time. And so I was toying in my mind with I need to find something else to do. Well, that idea coincided with me going to a concert at UMass Amherst with a West African drummer by the name of Babatunde Olatunji. And he had an ensemble of 20 people on stage, some dancers, some djembe players, some all types of drums from West Africa. And my oldest son at the time was 4, and I took him to the concert and had him on my shoulders. And halfway through the concert of West African ensemble drumming and dancing, there was probably 300 people in the crowd. The guy, Baba, stopped and he spoke to the crowd. And he said how important it is for people to bring their children to live musical events so that it strengthens the bond between child and parent. And so the strangest thing happened when I was walking out of that concert. I felt like he was talking directly to me, not only about my child, me and my child, but I felt like he was saying to me, or maybe not he was saying to me, but God or the universe was saying to me, you need to stop what you're doing and you need to start making drums. And so after that concert, I literally stopped building houses and I taught myself how to make djembes. Wow. And I used the West African hourglass shape as a guide and figured out how to do it with lumber here in the United States instead of carving it out of a one-piece log, which traditionally they are done. And so I did trial and error, making about 25 of these drums, and then I started selling them to music stores. And I had it in me that my goal was to get as many hand drums into as many hands as possible. This was the mid-90s.
Okay, yeah.
And this was, 94 I started the business.
I see.
And we called it Everyone's Drumming, because everybody has a heartbeat and they're drumming regardless of whether or not they're aware.
Yes, that's nice, yeah.
And so that's how I got into actually making the djembe. And then when I made the djembe, I realized, oh my gosh, well, I better learn how to play the djembe in order to sell my product. And so I connected with a few drummers, one person from Mali by the name of Yaya Diallo, who was a master djembe drummer. And over the years, he taught me how to play the djembe. And then, so we veered our business not only to music stores, but to music festivals as well. So multiple day music festivals, we'd bring our drums and have a 10 by 10 booth and try to sell them because people were camping out. And so people would want to buy drums and play in their campground. And it was really, really good. But that was, so if we backtrack to my spirituality and my connection with people, my interaction with people, it's really what fed my soul, was to be able to be at these music festivals and have people come in and talk drums and play drums and talk not just about drums, but about everything, spirituality, karma, what they do in their life, and so year after year after year, this was what ultimately I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's what really got you going.
It got me going. And then I stopped making drums in 2003, and my business partner kept going making the drums. And so I didn't make drums from 2003 until 3 years ago. I stopped making the drums. I didn't even play the drums for that amount of time. So I went back into construction, and then again, it was like the universe said to me 3 years ago, you need to start playing drums again. And so the way Matthew's Community Drumming came about was I was really wanting somebody to play drums with. I couldn't find anybody.
Okay.
So I'm living in New Canaan, and I have one djembe, and I'm like, gosh, I really wish I had somebody to drum with. And somebody suggested that I get in touch with the pastor of the Katona United Methodist Church, and maybe they would want to have you come and do some drumming over there. And so I got in touch with her, and I said, what do you think about me coming in teaching people how to drum at the church? And she said, I would love that.
Huh.
And so what I did was I have my one drum, my first class over there 3 years ago. I have my one drum, and I went to Home Depot and bought some buckets and some sticks, and so the first day I did the drum class over there, I had 5 people come, and I taught them how to do some rhythms on some buckets.
Buckets, wow.
Then a couple of weeks later, I got in touch with my old business partner, and I bought a couple of drums from him because he's still in business.
Ah, perfect.
And then I had half a dozen djembes, and then 6 months later, I had a dozen djembes, and then a year later, I've got 24 djembes, and now I've got 30 djembes. That's all I can fit in my car.
Yeah, that's your limit, right?
But so the idea was I wanted to teach people how to drum so that I had somebody to drum with.
Yeah, okay.
So it's kind of this weird thing, and so it almost sounds selfish, like, you know, there's nobody to drum with, so what am I going to do? I'm going to just teach people how to drum so that I have somebody to drum with. And so I started teaching people how to drum, and then it just turned into this whole, like, wow, you know, people really want this.
Yeah.
This is something people really want. And it wasn't just the drumming. It was about the community.
Right.
It was about the interaction, like it was at the festivals
Yeah.
from years and years and years earlier. And
Yeah.
so it just it has just evolved into what I think is one of the reasons what I'm supposed to be doing.
That sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you bring it back to that whole spiritual connection piece, I feel most at home when I'm teaching and participating in a drum circle in a community setting like that.
Yeah, yeah. So you created this, though. It didn't just happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you made it happen.
Right. So I did want to talk about that a little bit. When I was on my way here, I was thinking about the creative aspect of all of this. So, you know, there are other people doing this. And there have been other people doing this for a long, long time. So when I was in the drum business back in the early 90s, I was going to trade shows to sell my product. And there were other people in the industry that were putting on and hosting drum circles, like all over the place. Corporate drum circle settings, you know, at retreat centers.
All right, we're almost out of time, so.
Yeah, okay, and so that has been there for a while.
Okay.
And so for me coming back around to it, I just felt like was a creative piece of the puzzle and not a competitive. I'm not competing with those guys,
you brought this
but
together.
I'm just creating it, you know.
So we're going to have to wrap up, Matthew.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much for being here. I know we could talk all day,
I
right?
could definitely talk about this forever.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having
And
me.
thanks to our audience for being here. We're going to wrap up. I'm Katie Augustyn, your host. Thank you for being on the Spiritual Connection Show with us. Take care. Bye-bye.